Muy buenas tardes to everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, enjoying family, as always. Well, I would also like to give a thanks again to Tony for allowing me to get on here on his platform. Stories written by a current prisoner, and just share my stories. Now, before I start, I want to start by giving out an apology if I do sound, whack or something today. I'm just going through some health issues, some personal issues that they all decided to act up on me today. So again, I disculpa for it ahead of time. Well, this story is going to talk about a little power struggle that the Pilis had and the consequences that ended up outcoming from it. Well, the Pilis involved were mainly three older Pilis and a younger, fresh made one. You know, it's just greed. I'll go back to greed, and it's basically the carnales involved was Fonzi from Fresno, Chino from Modesto, and somewhat Abe from Sacramento. Another camarada was P from Willis in San Jose. He had just barely been made. But, you know, P from Willis, when he got made, man, he had a lot of connections. He had a lot of good connections to down south, you know. So he was bringing up work. And at first, everything was good. They started uh, they started building a web together, from Fresno, Modesto, San Jose, and they were even reaching out to a couple workers that Abe had out there in Sacramento. So everything is was good. It's just like I stated before, you can't trust a tecato, you can't trust a snake, you know, and for some reason, at the end of the day, they're gonna do their thing. Like everybody knows that Fonzi's strong arm is those vatos, from 26, and then Modesto, the camarada had their sold up too. So, I don't know which camaradas were working for the Pili in San Jose, but I'm pretty sure, the vatos from Willis, Pokeway. I know Sapo from Tamale was working for him. I know he had a couple of them, that were doing things for him. And for some reason, he got advice. Because I'll tell you this, because I happen to be sitting in Pelican Bay, in the same pod as Fonzie, so I was able actually to have some conversations with him. You know, to be sincere, it's actually why I found out, that this Billy had recently been made. And, you know, for some reason, one day we were conversating about the homies' reach could be bigger. And I was like, what you mean the homies' reach could be bigger? And he told me, like, look, not everything we do on the streets has to be to another carnal's liking. You know, now when he said this, I just stood quiet and listened, and I was like, what you mean? But in reality, in my head, I was like, wait, ain't nobody above the program, ain't nobody above the rules and regulations. But, I kept listening. So he tells me, like, look, where I'm from, yes, I have the camaradas mostly do things for me, but I also do dealings with Fresno, with the Bulldogs. Them, they don't care where it comes from. It's basically they'll buy it wherever it's the best at. And I was like, okay, at this time, please keep in mind that there already been a couple Pilis that that had been put on the hat, green lighted, and it was never put out there that they just were being removed because other carnales wanted their territory, but public, they got politically removed behind them using norteños or other, groups that they weren't supposed to be using. But here was a carnal, an older carnal at this, telling me that it is how. So he had advised the young Pili, freshly made, to utilize what he had in power. Now, for those that know who P from Willis is, he was the first one out of his whole family to be a sureño. His sisters, his brother, his everybody was a norteño. So he felt that if it was coming from older Pili, that it was right for him to, you know, to get weight out there and bring back money for the mesa, for the organization. Then there was nothing wrong with it. So he started utilizing his sisters, his brother, and basically put work in Norteño's hands and just have his work being moved, not just by the camaradas, but as well, you know, I'm not going to say, you know, put his work in Norteño's hand and him telling Norteños how to distribute it, because that's not how it happened. You know, I could guess he had a couple solid Norteños, and, I got so much at this price and do business. It was all business, on, you know, dando y dando, you could say, you come buy it, take it, you do what you want with it, that type of thing. But at this time, there was a lot of money being generated, and greed always comes to effect. For example, I know that they started pushing back, like towards them. The first time I heard they were pushing back was in Modesto. Chino had a crew out there, and I heard that there was a crew out there that basically went up to them and told them they couldn't sell in this spot, in this area. So they were like, why? We're under so and so. This other crew told them, well, we're under Rube and we're under, Mike Boo Boo. For those that are aware, Mike Boo Boo and them, they had that little area around Sanger and all that sold up. And this is the time where they were doing all these dealings with the Familia Michoacana, or Los Caballeros Templarios, whichever one you want to name them. And so they were getting access to Halle too. So what had happened is, first it started on the streets. They started warring with each other. You know, Chino from Modesto, the Pili, started warring with Mike Boo Boo's crew. Then next thing you know, Fast Freddy got involved, and he started having torpedoes go down there for the same reason that the camarada from Sanjo, or the Pili, excuse me, from Sanjo, he was also touching base in Stockton and Concord, and as everybody knows, that was Fat Freddy's territory, man. Richmond, Concord, Hayward, Stockton. That's where that was his area. It was his area for the longest. So he didn't like people coming in, and other camaradas start moving different way under, you know P from Willis. See, but when other Pilis started getting involved, basically they started nitpicking or keeping an eye. Or for example, they had ordered two other Pilis from San Jose to keep an eye on how the movements of this Pili were going, and also keeping an ear open for how these other two Pilis were moving. So, for Fonzi and Chino being older, they got paranoid, I guess. You could say that. Because if you really sit down and analyze why every Billy does things. At the end of the day, man, they're scared. They're scared, so they start cleaning up their tracks. They start removing camaradas like they were nothing, as long as they weren't around to basically front them off on what they were doing. So what they did, and this is shady, man. What they did is they basically told, La Mesa of what B was doing in Willis, which was exactly what Fonzi had advised him to start doing. And what he's been doing was utilizing norteños, or utilizing those lines he had with his sister and brother and family members to be able to get rid of more work with norteños. So they started politicking against him up until the point that, he was done. He was done. I could sincerely say that this young Billy enjoyed his membership maybe 6 to 8 months, if that, before all this started playing out. But see, when I get on here and tell you guys the stories, I know I get on here and just tell you the surface of things. I don't really want to get into like all the betweens, all the camaradas. But let me just state this: in Fresno, in Fresno County, there was an open war with Mike Boo and his crew. Now, just come to think, how many camaradas behind this were put on the hat? How many of them were being removed over them pleasing a man, pleasing a Billy that was not doing things correct? Now in Modesto, you know, just think about the open war there he had with Fast Freddy and Mike Boo, and how many camaradas actually got taken out behind this, or were hitting county and were getting whacked by one or the other, getting put in PC over what? Over them being so greedy, not sharing, not wanting another Billy, even though that's supposed to be their brother, to do their own thing. They want to be the main ones at all costs. And in between, man, I know a good camarada. They call him Woody from Modesto. Man, this guy was always about pleasing them, doing anything he could, mainly for Chino from Modesto. He was there, you know, to help him expand on the streets, in the county, anywhere he used to plant his flag. And he just happened to hit a spot where, you know, Fast Freddy's people were deep. And when they hit him, I guess he tried to reach out to Chino and tell him like, what should I do? Is everything gonna be cool? And Chino never replied. Now keep in mind, this was a person doing things for him for years, but he was not willing to back him up. He looked Chino. I know Chino looked at it like, oh, instead of you getting there and planting my flag, you lost. You got booked. I don't need you. You're taking up. Don't go. So again, this is how indispensable we are. You know how they throw us away like nothing. You could make the ultimate sacrifices, like in the last story I told about Pelon, but they don't count for nothing. Because at the end of the day, you know, P from Willis got put in the hat, as well as everybody underneath them. So just, man, I don't express it enough. Like, I don't understand why once a Billy goes for doing his things, they gotta get rid of every camarada underneath them. You know, at the end of the day, there's camaradas. They're only following rules and regulation. Which is the police in charge of this area. I'm here to please them, but they don't look at it like that. Like Fonzi did his damage control too. A lot of good camaradas got put in the hat over nothing. And it just goes to show you how greed works, or most importantly, how Atecato works. Because Atecato would always say whatever he needs to say to get what he wants. And in this case, he felt that backdoor starting to move on him, so he started washing up camaradas over nothing, and there was nobody there to question him. You know, and the end of the day, it all ended up settling down behind them, removing the freshly made Pili and all his crew. And I could tell you, this is a thing that happens all the time. Like for my next story, I know everybody knows the get downs of what happened with Jaco Padilla, Cisco from La Puente, and Perico. But I'm gonna tell the story about how it was happening inside. Cause yes, everybody's aware of the things that happen on the outskirts, but there was a big power struggle on the inside too, behind this. Mainly because Lacey from Eastside Bowling got involved inside, and it went bad for a lot of camaradas. But I will get into the story next. I just thought I would get on here and share Fonz's story and Chino. Because at the end of the day, Abe saw the writing on the wall and he pulled out. You know, that's the reason why they've been there for so long, and they know how to do. You got to give them that credit, man. They know how to do what they're doing right. It's the reason why they lasted so long. Because you could look up things about these people, or even try to find things out, and they know how to do their thing real good. Because they're not in the radar or nothing. But that don't take from them doing what they're doing, being what they're being, man. And for this case, I can sincerely say, you know, every time they were power against each other, it was 5, 6 camaradas being put on the hat. 5, 6 camaradas being put on the hat. And over what? Over them not being able to establish their lines correctly, or one of them not thinking another one's doing more than him, and feeling that greed come in, or just betraying each other. Like here, Fonzie was giving this other Billy the guidance on how to do things, and then he pulled out. He felt they were gonna start figuring out what he was doing, so he started putting all the camaradas things out there, because he knew them down to the dot, because he was the one telling them how to go about things. But again, you know, there's no loyalty among Tecatos, and it's a shame. I don't get on here to express myself about the Pilis that do things right, not cause there ain't none. There's a lot of Pilis that are doing things right, as I stated before, and for that simple fact of them doing things right, I'm not gonna get on here and speak about them. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say. I get on here basically just to tell camaradas, wise up, wise up. There shouldn't be that much power in one man. You know, at least towards raza. And then camaradas are the ones doing everything. They're putting their neck on the line just to get back there to the hole or something, and just to say, oh, the person you were doing things for, oh, he checked in, so you're gone too. I mean, come on. It just makes no sense. But, you know, it's greed. It's greed was what's really doing this. But again, I do want to apologize to everyone if I don't sound too correct today. Like I stated, I am just going through some things. By the end of my story, which I plan to get back into, so I could finish telling it to you guys, I will state, you know, my whereabouts, where I'm from, my name and everything, and as well as the things I'm going through and why I decided to actually, you know, step away. But with this said, man, I hope everybody's doing great again. And please stay loyal to yourself and always enjoy your family. Muchas gracias.